Hello and welcome. My name is Vineet and you are watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. In the United States, thousands of protesters flood cities in all 50 states. Citizens rally against President Trump and his actions in the biggest nationwide outcry since his second term began. Donald Trump urges Americans to hang tough as new tariffs shake global markets, claiming China is hit harder than the US. The EU, alongside China and Canada, is set to present countermeasures worth up to $28 billion. And 2 Palestinians were killed and several injured in Israeli artillery shelling in northern Gaza's Jabalia area. On the other hand, Israel's army has acknowledged errors in the March killings of 15 emergency workers in southern Gaza, with video footage showing a convoy under fire near Rafah. A Russian missile strike on Kyiv overnight killed 1 man and injured 3 others, causing fires and damage across several districts. This marks the first major missile and drone attack since the US brokered ceasefire agreements between Russia and Ukraine, including one on energy infrastructure. Palestinian group Hamas releases a video of 2 Israeli hostages alive and held in Gaza as Israel continues its strikes. This comes as French President Emmanuel Macron plans a summit with Egyptian and Jordanian leaders to discuss the Gaza plan. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu departs for the US for his visit to the White House. Netanyahu and Trump are expected to discuss tariffs, the threat of Iran, and the Gaza war. Iran's foreign minister says direct negotiations with the United States are meaningless after President Trump expresses a preference for talks with the Islamic Republic. Pope Francis has made his first public appearance since being discharged from the hospital. The 88-year-old pontiff was discharged from Rome's Gemelli hospital after suffering from double pneumonia in February. All right, well, the hands-off protests erupted all over the US and the world, with participants in all 50 US states and cities like London, Paris, Berlin, and Rome voicing opposition to President Donald Trump's policies and Elon Musk's influence in the US government. Over 1,400 hands-off mass action protests were held at state capitals, federal buildings, congressional offices, Social Security's headquarters, parks, and city halls throughout the US. Anywhere we can make sure they hear us. Organizers have in fact said this. Hands-off demands an end to this billionaire power grab. Other key concerns includes proposed cuts to Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid funding, controversial immigration measures, aggressive restructuring by Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, leading to significant federal job losses, and new 10% tariffs affecting global economies. As Trump continues upending Washington, his approval rating has fallen to its lowest since taking office, according to recent polling. But despite global pushback to his sweeping tariffs and bubbling resentment from many Americans, the White House has dismissed the protests. Professor Derek H. Lindquist, Dean School of Psychology and Counseling, OP Jindal Global University, is joining us on the program. Sir, appreciate you joining us. Well, this is becoming a huge concern. For a number of 6 lakh participants in this protest may not be a big number in India, but when you talk about the United States, this does show a cause of concern.
Well, first, thank you for having me, and I absolutely agree. It's a large number, and I think, of course, there's been a lot of discontent since the beginning of this second term. And I think, if anything, we're only 3 months in, and Donald Trump has simply shown that his strident and somewhat autocratic nature is going to show force, regardless of the protests that may be out there.
Right. What do you think this implies? Donald Trump came in to the party with Elon Musk. They were a lot of talks about how oligarchs are going to capture a lot of decisions and changes that may come about under his presidency. But the fact of the matter is that this is also not turning out for Elon Musk. This is not turning out good for Elon Musk. His stock has fallen, his cars are being burnt. People all over the world are boycotting his brand. How is this mess helping Elon Musk?
Well, I'm not quite sure it is, other than the fact that he is perhaps the second most, or some might say the most powerful man in the world right now. When I look at Trump, he is who he is. We saw it in his first term, and again, I think he's simply more emboldened in this second term. Elon Musk, I really kind of wrestle with. The man's brilliant in terms of what he's done historically. But I also find a lot of his comments, which are very Trump-like, to me, it seems very disingenuous. This whole idea that Democrats hate America, et cetera, et cetera. I really can't imagine that he believes what he is saying. And I think it's really just a matter of means for him to, again, exert this control and ensure that he has that side-by-side position with Donald Trump.
Right. And do you think that this is something which is, or which can be written off as an initial hiccup to sweeping changes across America and the world by Donald Trump? Or do you think that this is the beginning of something which has, long-term pitfalls for America as well?
Well, certainly the latter. Again, we're only 3 months in. It's really very difficult to imagine where we're going over the next, more than 3.5 years. And so I think, once again, these tariffs and the effects that they'll have, historically the U.S. was the sort of leader with respect to global free trade, and this is really just almost the polar opposite of that. I'm not an economist, so I won't speak too much on that, but again, I just think it's Trump feeling much more emboldened in this second term. He knows what's expected, he knows what he can do, and he's willing to sort of punch up, as he says often, to ensure that his vision will be implemented despite any concerns that anyone else may have.
Sir, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on. A sweeping 10% baseline tariff on all imports took effect in the U.S., triggering market chaos and diplomatic alarm around the world. President Donald Trump defended the move, calling it part of an economic revolution and urging Americans to hang tough through the turmoil. The announcement sent U.S. stocks into a tailspin, with the Standard & Poor 500 plunging nearly 6%, making it the worst week since 2020. Furthermore, China announced swift retaliatory tariffs, while UK and French leaders warned nothing is off the table. On the other hand, European Union countries will seek to present a unified front in the coming days against US President Donald Trump's tariffs. They are likely to approve a first set of targeted countermeasures on up to $28 billion of U.S. imports, from dental floss to diamonds. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that Britain would accelerate plans for industrial support and potentially state intervention to protect UK businesses, which now face 25% tariffs on car, steel and aluminium exports. Tesla CEO Elon Musk, now heading the Department of Government Efficiency, suggested the turmoil might lead to a zero tariff-free trade zone between Europe and North America. Let's listen in to what was said.
I hope that I hope that the United States and Europe can establish a very close partnership. We obviously are, there's an alliance already, but I'm hopeful that there can be a very close relationship with America and Europe. And I'm hopeful, for example, with the tariffs, that at the end of the day, I hope it is agreed that both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America. That would be that's what I hope occurs. And also more freedom of people to move between Europe and North America, if they wish. If they wish to work in Europe or wish to work in America, they should be allowed to do so, in my view. So that has certainly been my advice to the president.
Meanwhile, Vietnamese and American business groups pleaded for a delay in the looming 46% tariff on Vietnamese goods. All while Zimbabwe, despite being hit with an 18% US tariff, surprised analysts by suspending all duties on US imports to promote bilateral trade. Mr. Raymond Vickery, former US Assistant Secretary of Commerce, is joining us to talk more about this. Mr. Vickery, appreciate you taking out the time and speaking with us. Well, you know, what we have also heard that a number of big companies, including BlackRock, have, suffered losses to the tunes of billions as a result of these tariffs. And of course, stock markets everywhere around the world are unpredictable. They have, in fact, gone into a tailspin. Is this, can this be attributed to something being, a speed breaker of sorts before the actual benefits begin? Or do you think this is, the start of something much worse for the American economy?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think it's the start of something very worse for the American economy and the world. President Trump was really elected on his promise to bring down inflation. Most Americans do not believe that they are in the terrible economic situation that President Trump had portrayed on the campaign trail and since he's been president. But what they do see is higher prices at the grocery store, higher prices for almost everything. This action goes directly contrary to his promise in regard to inflation. So you can say what you want about whether or not we'll go into recession, but it is for sure that these kinds of measures are going to increase inflation. And so therefore, they're going to have a domestic economic impact, which is not going to be good. Consumer confidence is going to go down. People are going to slow in terms of their purchases. Not to mention the fact that the uncertainty which has been thrown into the business and economic system is not going to dissipate unless there is a change in direction here. So I think it's very serious. It is very serious for the entire world. There are countries who believe that if we'll keep our heads down, this too shall pass and we'll be all right. And of course, Elon Musk and others are saying the great benefit is that everybody could go to zero tariffs. Well, that would be a great outcome, but that's completely contrary to the vision which President Trump has. And indeed, there is a split, as you may recall, between guys like Steve Bannon and Elon Musk on international trade. Musk saying, well, yes, the eventual benefit will outweigh the harm here because we'll all go to zero and we'll have a free trading system. That is not the MAGA base approach, and it's not the approach which President Trump unveiled in the Rose Garden just a few days ago. His vision is Fortress America, that we can do without the rest of the world. The rest of the world has to come and bend the knee to us on economics and indeed on security matters, and that's going to carry the day. But that's not going to work. It's going to have adverse consequences across the board.
Right. And Mr. Vickery, stock markets around the world have suffered as a result of this. And a lot of countries fear that this exactly is something which is symptomatic of a recession, because this is exactly what happens before the world economy is going to go into a tailspin. Isn't that something that Donald Trump can see? Isn't that something that people can advise him on? The fact is that his ratings have also gone down in the last couple of days by 3 to 4%.
Well, President Trump lives in a world of his own. And so far, on many fronts, it's worked out for him. It didn't work out for him on the pandemic because that was a real problem, and his rhetoric didn't deal with it. I think that that's the same situation here. He believes deeply in what he's saying, that he was going to completely transform the economy of the United States. He's going to take it back, if you will, to the 1950s, or even before that to the late 19th century, when he hypothesizes that we were in a much better, and we were much richer than we are now. So he believes that. So people coming and telling him he can see the stock market, but he has in his mind an alternate reality, really, that's going on. Markets are not that dumb. Of course, they go up and down, and they're not the real economy. But if this was such a great move, you would not find the across-the-board disastrous results which we've had in markets across the world during the last few days. So it's a very difficult situation, but there is a MAGA base, Make America Great Again base in the United States, which has, if we could use the metaphor, drunk the Kool-Aid, if you will, and believes very strongly in what he's trying to do. And you hear people from the Midwest who are Trump voters saying, well, you've got to walk through fire to get to the other side. This is not realistic thinking. This is not reality, but it is the situation in which we are involved. Under our system with separation of powers, in my view, there are only two hopes here. One is that the courts are going to stand up as a third part of the United States government. Many of the things which are being done are contrary to law, but the courts have to stand up. The second, of course, is in regard to the legislature. The legislative branch, so far it has been unwilling, either in the House or the Senate, to stand up against it. But we have elections coming up next year, and that can be a check on the executive power and on President Trump. Absent those two things, and President Trump has already indicated that he's attacking both judicial branch opponents and legislative branch opponents, attacking judges in terms which have not been heard for literally centuries. And of course, he is bringing the representatives and senators to heel. But those are the two hopes. But that's not going to be immediate relief, and the world is in for a rough ride.
Right,
Happening is a substitution of a bilateral approach to the multilateral one, which we've had since World War II.
Absolutely. Mr. Vickery, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Moving on, a significant diplomatic push is gaining momentum to end the fighting in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. A government delegation from the DRC has held new talks with the M23 rebels in Qatar, according to a source close to the discussions. The latest meeting, which was held behind closed doors, follows a first round in March that was deemed positive. Negotiations are set to continue in Doha on the 9th of April, with Qatar playing a key role as a mediator. These confidential talks aim to keep the momentum going and seek peaceful solutions to a conflict that has displaced thousands and destabilized the region for years. In a positive sign, the Congolese army reports that M23 fighters have pulled back from the strategic mining hub of Walikele, the furthest west the rebel group has reached. While neither side has publicly commented on the latest developments, sources say that talks remain sensitive. The international community is closely monitoring for any signs of a lasting breakthrough, is what we are learning. Mr. Mahmood Muhammad Neruddin, African journalist, is joining us at this point in time. Mahmood, appreciate you joining us. Well, this could all in out be a good sign that a conflict which has raged on for a long time is seeing some semblance of closure.
We hope so, because we remember in March there was supposed to be a meeting in between the M23 and government of DR Congo, but it didn't come off because of certain concerns raised by M23 group. We are hoping that on April 9th, this meeting will come off, because this is what many Congolese are looking forward to. They would want to see a ceasefire in the eastern part of Congo so that businesses would begin to, people will begin to conduct their businesses. As I'm speaking now, the M23 group has released a statement that banks in Goma and the rest of the towns and cities in the eastern part of DR Congo will begin operation tomorrow, and that roads that were blocked have been made way for people to conduct their businesses tomorrow. But yesterday, they also released a statement indicating that there was an attack on 10 members from the same family. Women and children were killed, and they are very much concerned about this killing in the north, in one of the provinces where these members were killed. They are very much concerned about it. And so some of these issues that come ahead of the meeting could trigger another concern that they raised when they were supposed to meet last month with the government of DR Congo and some other officials who wanted to negotiate for peace in DR Congo.
All right, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for those insights. Well, that's all we have time for now. We will continue to bring more news and updates from around the world. Thank you for watching.